Another. Hello, welcome back to the James Rambling Reviews for yet another episode. And you probably didn't expect that, but I'm actually going to be covering Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, which is the newest installment into the Beverly Hills Cop franchise. I didn't make a community tab post about reviewing this movie or anything. I'm just going to get straight into this movie, kind of give my thoughts on the plot, how I felt about the movie as a whole, but I'll give you a bit of context before I get into how I felt about this movie, what I'd rate it out of 10 and stuff like that. So, Beverly Hills Cop is a franchise where I've actually heard about it, right? But I've not been somebody who's actually seen the movies because this is the 1980s. These movies came out, and the third one came out in 1994. So I wasn't even alive at that time. So I wasn't somebody who was like, I've seen these movies dozens and dozens of times or anything like that. So for me personally, going into this as somebody who just watched these movies recently for the first time, I would have to say that the first movie is just the best in the franchise. Like, you get to see Eddie Murphy fresh out of the gate in his 20s, doing what he does best and just having fun in this role. And he's just really charismatic and he's really fun to watch on screen. So the movie is just really good, right? And for me personally, right, I have seen like 80s action movies, but this was just really about Eddie Murphy and what he is all about, kind of thing, and how he's like this undercover cop. And it does get revealed in the original film that he is this undercover cop and something is going on. And then he meets these characters like Billy Rosewood, and you've got Taggart, this other guy, and stuff like that. So there's that. But then you've also got the sequel, in which was 1987, I believe it came out. So it's a few years after the original film. And I have to say, with that movie as a whole, I did kind of enjoy that film. But when you come to think about it, right, the original is just the better version of that movie. Like, the second movie is just a complete action fest, which was defeats the entire point of the Beverly Hills Cop franchise. Like, it wasn't centered around some like action set pieces and a lot of action going on in the first act and a lot of stuff happening, if you know what I mean. Like, there was actually kind of build up to the final act of a bit of action going on. So that was a bit weird. And then you get to the third movie where it's literally a cash grab in my opinion, because we get to see Eddie Murphy go to this amusement park and it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, they kind of just go there and it's just really weird and it's just strange what happens in that movie. Like, there are points where it's kind of like fun and watchable and it is hilarious at times, I guess, but it just doesn't match the original movie. It doesn't match that. And so it was actually 10 years after the original movie, so it kind of felt weird where it was just like a big gap and I was like, oh, so you've got this movie and it's just so many years late, and I was like, can this really be any good? So once you get outside of that, where I'm actually talking about Beverly Hills Cop 1, 2 and 3, I will mention what this movie, the new movie, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, is about. Now, before I get into that though, I won't be spoiling this entire movie, I'll just give you my general thoughts on the movie as a whole and the plot and stuff like that. So Beverly Hills Cop Axel F is like this Netflix original, right, where you get to see Axel Foley, Eddie Murphy come back, and it's 40 years after the original movie and 30 years after the third movie, and you're probably thinking to yourself like, oh, it's one of these long delayed sequels, is it gonna be that good, is it any good and stuff like that, and so there's that. So that's kind of what the movie is about. You've also got how there's like his daughter, you get this whole storyline about how Axel Foley has this daughter and that kind of stuff. And it is quite a nostalgia fest, I will say that. Like, this movie definitely has a lot of nostalgia going for it. It plays some original music from the original movie. And you get to hear that a lot in the movie. And that's kind of what this movie is about. Like, it's kind of like Axel Foley kind of like re-experiencing his life at a later stage in life, because he was actually like 62 years old or something like that when Eddie Murphy shot this film and stuff like that. So there's that. So how do I actually feel about this film? So Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, I am happy to report that this is actually like way better than the third movie. It's by no means like better than the original. Like, you can't really beat the original because obviously Eddie Murphy was a lot younger in the original movie and he had a lot more charisma. Like, You can tell Eddie Murphy still has fun here, but it's just something fresh about him being a younger guy, you know what I mean, in the 80s and stuff like that. So there's that, and you would think that, like, there are a few movies where it plays on nostalgia bait, and it's like, oh, remember the past, remember the good old days, and then you just see these actors that are just really, really old. But I would say that Eddie Murphy looks like he's having a lot of fun here, and you get to see some of the other actors who were in the original movie, and you can tell they have aged a bit, but you could just tell that they were enjoying the time. Like, they do reference stuff to do with the original movie, like the lines of like dialogue and things of that nature. And there is a lot of points in this film where it does actually kind of play the original in different ways. And I would say that that alone, like, it did kind of get repetitive, because even in just like points where Eddie Murphy's just walking across the street interacting with his daughter, you just hear this dun 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 dun, and there's no like big action or big things going on, so that felt kind of weird. I will also say that when it came to his daughter especially, I wasn't the biggest fan of that whole thing, because she just has this one personality trait and it just goes on and on and on. It's like, can this movie end already? I just want to see like Eddie Murphy do some cool stuff with some characters. But I will say there is this one character that does really steal the show for me, and I think he's played by James Gordon-Levitt, and he's really fun to see on screen. Like, he is like this new version of like Billy Rosewood, if you know what I mean. Like, that guy who was like the buddy cop to Eddie Murphy in the original movie. In the second movie, he kind of has his own fun here with him, and I really did enjoy this movie. If you cut out like that whole daughter plot line, I would say that this was a lot better than that. Like, this is a 6. I would say like a 7 out of 10, because it is miles better than Beverly Hills Cop 3, but no, by no means better than the original. Like, it does kind of try to recapture the magic of the original film, but it just isn't like that. And it's nothing like Indiana Jones 5, where you see this old man stumbling around, breaking his legs, and he just can't move anymore. Like, Eddie Murphy actually can kind of move in this movie, and he's having a lot of fun doing it. So that is my review on Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. I hope you enjoyed this review, and stay tuned for more like it, as I did watch this movie a couple times because my mum wanted to see it as well, and she did actually enjoy this movie as well. So there's definitely that. See you next time for another review on the James Ramblin' Reviews. Do